My name is Patrick Newman. I live in Sundance Center. I am the engagement coordinator down here, one of them, and I sort of oversee the clothing program here at the Drop-In Centre. So whenever people donate stuff to us, mostly, clothing and some hygiene products, the things that I mostly deal with. Well, presumably it would be that, people who aren't working would be able to receive a certain stipend of amount of income per month in order to meet their basic needs. I mean, especially for people who don't have the means to earn an income, it kind of helps to alleviate that sort of stress that comes with wanting or having to meet the needs of everyday life. I know I was in a point in my life where I didn't have any income and I was unemployed, and I can tell you it is incredibly stressful.
When you're in that kind of situation, you have this, you really do not want to face it, right? It's kind of like you have this demon that's sitting on your shoulder that's telling you, the day is coming. You know that you have a dwindling amount of money in your bank account, and when that happens, bad stuff's going to happen to you, right? You're going to get that. I got that call from the bank that said, oh, you've got bills that you've got to pay, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I really have no way to go about dealing with this, so you just kind of ignore it. And then so things like that can snowball, and you don't know, I think people don't really appreciate what other people can do in certain situations. You might be a very kind and generous person if things are going good for you, but when things get bad, people will go to any means to, solve that situation, right? And especially if you want to stop crime, right? I mean, how many people probably resort to crime because of the situations that they're in, right? I mean, if you can't afford food, if you can't find a place to stay, right? And those sort of social norms can just go out the window if those needs aren't being met.
Well, hopefully it would be able to, like I said before, provide people with a little bit of stability in their life so that they can, essentially see where their life is going to go, help sort things out, and give them the time that they need in order to sort of do those things. And to, I think, essentially remove those stressful and crippling parts of being unemployed. I mean, if you don't know if you can pay the rent or if you can eat food, that is going to really affect your mental state and is not going to contribute in any way towards your progression towards bettering yourself or your life. I think there's going to be challenges, because if you are just going to essentially give people money, there is always going to be someone who's out there looking to abuse that system, right? You have to find some way to ensure that the people who are receiving a basic income are doing something to make sure that they are moving towards becoming more productive citizens of society. I know that kind of sounds a little bit cliche, but that is one of the major problems, because otherwise you're just going to be fostering sort of dependence, right? You don't want people to stay within the system for too long, not just because it's a burden on the system, but because I think people need to be challenged in their own personal lives. They need to have something to strive for, and if they don't have that, it can certainly take a toll on them. I think if you wanted it to be truly effective, you would need to have people meet certain criteria in order to sort of receive basic income. And I'm not saying they need to qualify for it. Something like, say if you were receiving basic income, you would agree to either, some sort of training, whether it be, say money management, learning how to do a trade or a skill, something like that. And it's not something that they would really need to be completely obligated to do, but something that would give them, a few options, right? I think not everybody needs to become a carpenter. Not everyone needs to become a cook or a driver, whatever, right? But at least it would need to be there to motivate them to go and do certain things, because, like I said before, you have this sort of proclivity for people to want to abuse certain systems, right? You would have to convince the naysayers that it can at least help people. I think that's probably the biggest problem that there is, right? And I mean, I think for people who are more economically inclined, they can see it as another drain on the system where money could be going towards other things too. But I think you would need to you would really need to emphasize the greater scope at which something like that can be applied. I mean, certainly you can have it set up so that, yes, it might cost X amount of dollars over, 10 years, however you want to budget it. But if you look at the costs that would be avoided by it, if you're stopping people from entering homelessness, if you're stopping people from having their, say even like for mothers and children, having their families separated because they can't afford to stay together, right? There's definite long-term benefits that can come from having a system like that in place.